Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well across the world, whether you're coming in from or tuning in from Brazil, from Colombia, from the United States. I am Jim McCrary. I am the founder and CEO of TalentoTotal. We have the great honor of welcoming the team from Penn Law. We have Elise Kramer with us and Samantha or Sam Simmons. So we're really excited to kind of dive into the Penn Law experience, talk about the LLM, talk a little bit about TalentoTotal and the work that we're doing across Latin America, and specifically how we got connected to Penn Law or the University of Pennsylvania. So as most of you all may know, we've been working or partnering with the Vance Center for International Justice, which is the pro bono or nonprofit arm of the New York City Bar Association. And so they've been super fantastic in kind of creating these relationships with a number of schools. And we want to give a big shout out to the Vance Center, as well as a mutual friend of the Vance Center, Carlos, who kind of made this connection to the dean of the law school at Penn and to Elise and Sam. And so we're really excited today to kind of learn more about this fantastic program, which has a lot of history, which is in one of the great cities of the United States. And we're going to go ahead and dive into this. So once again, Jim McCrary, founder and CEO of TalentoTotal. We're a nonprofit organization that seeks to accelerate the careers of young professionals who identify as Afro-descendant or indigenous. And our hope, our mission is to see more Afro-descendant and indigenous young professionals, and particularly lawyers in this case, go to pursue great educations in the United States and Europe at top LLM programs and MBA programs, and come back to their home countries with the intent to provide leadership, the intent to provide inspiration for the next generation of lawyers. So with that being said, I will hand it off to Elise and Sam. And I know, Elise, you want to throw up a presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and get that started for you and add that to the screen. It looks like it is up and ready to go. So thanks so much, Elise. I'll hand it off to you. And if you're tuning in live, please chime in. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions, be sure to post them in the comments. Off to you, Elise.
Oh, great. So hi, good evening. I guess good evening for most of you. We're so excited about this partnership and the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Some of you we've had the opportunity to meet before, but for those of you who don't know us yet, my name is Elise Kramer. I'm the Executive Director of Graduate Programs, and with me this evening is Sam Simmons, our Associate Director. So we're going to talk a little bit about our program and kind of tailor it to folks who may be working with TT, as I've been calling it, but really anyone who's on here, any questions. So without any further ado, let's get started. If I can get the screen to advance. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about an LLM, sort of in general. So why do this? It's a big investment, right? It's a big investment in your future, both financially and time-wise. So what's it like? And I'm talking about Penn, but about LLM programs in general in the U.S. It tends to be an LLM in the U.S. tends to be a very rigorous and engaged experience. Your classes are going to be challenging, and the atmosphere of the law school is going to be very engaged. It's the style of teaching is one where your participation is not voluntary. You're going to, whether you like it or not, going to be participating in your education. In the U.S., you'll also find, especially at top law schools like Penn, the resources for students are just sort of endless. The physical facilities are state of the art. The libraries, there are just student centers, gyms, just anything you can imagine, both in terms of physical plant and the amount of staff available whose mission is to support you throughout the year. And in addition, these kind of programs are going to have not just these, really engaged and involved classes, but a whole array of co-curricular professional and social opportunities, things like journals, clinics, work with a career counselor, lots of different social opportunities, lots of networking opportunities. It's a very full experience. And so what happens at the end of that year? What is your investment? What's the return here? Well, among other things, your language skills are probably going to be enhanced if English isn't your first language, and it's especially kind of legal and business English. You're going to have developed a cultural and business competency. You're going to have the opportunity to engage with top professionals from around the world in the LLM, as well as JD students. Through this rigorous, we often call it Socratic learning experience, you're going to develop critical thinking skills that are really valued by employers. You may also, depending on what you're doing with your LLM, really enhance a specialized knowledge in a particular area, that like maybe intellectual property or corporate law or human rights law, whatever it is that you are interested in working on. And it may be that you will take a bar or get other types of certificates that are going to really be part of your investment and part of the value that you have. I'm going to pass the baton here to Sam to talk about Penn Law kind of specifically, what our culture is and what makes us special amongst top programs.
Yeah, thanks, Elise, and good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be joining you here. I'll talk a little bit about why we think Penn Law is so special. Number one, world-class faculty. I think we're at a majority now of our faculty either hold an appointment in another school at Penn or hold a degree in another discipline besides the law. You know, our faculty are very committed to cross-disciplinary learning, and they're also committed to teaching. Because of the smaller class size at Penn, you get more face-to-face time with these faculty, but they're really here at Penn Law to teach and to help students learn and to connect with students, not just to work on their own projects. Number two, a culture of collegiality. Collegiality is sort of like the motto of Penn Law. What does that mean? That means people who are engaged in our community, who are nice to each other and want to support and learn from one another. It's part of why we think diversity is so important, because we learn from one another, not just in the classroom. So this culture of collegiality really sets us apart from places that might feel more competitive or not quite as warm and friendly as the Penn Law experience. Number three, Wharton Business and Law Certificate. This is something that's really exciting and really special to our program. It is a custom designed certificate program. It's a partnership between the law school and the Wharton School of Business, both at the University of Pennsylvania, that is just for our LLM students. It's taught by Wharton faculty at Wharton with international lawyers in mind, covering topics in business and management to help you exceed and excel in all of those business and corporate topics. So it's something that's really exciting. It runs concurrently with our program, and all Penn Law LLM students are automatically eligible to take this certificate. There is no additional application process. If you come to Penn Law for your LLM, you can do this certificate program. Number four, preterm program. So this is something that's also really unique to us. It's a 5-week program. It happens at the end of July and throughout August before the start of the fall semester. You get 2 credit-bearing courses. That's credits both for graduation and also for the New York Bar, if that's something you're interested in. These classes are Foundations in U.S. Law and U.S. Legal Writing and Legal Research. So you get a head start for the fall semester, so you really feel capable and on the same even playing field with your JD classmates. You know, at Penn Law, something that's also really great about our program is that our LLMs choose from our regular course catalog, and you take classes right alongside our JD students. So this preterm program really helps get you prepared to be your best and to succeed in our program. In addition to these courses, you can expect a wonderful slate of co-curricular activities, everything from hearing from our dedicated LLM career counselor to academic support, how to be successful in your classes, social events spearheaded by me and Elise in our office to get to know one another, where you can get to know Philadelphia, get to know your classmates, get to know the campus. So really the point of this program is to set you up for success during your year at Penn Law. Next, I'd like to talk about Philadelphia. It's a place that Elise and I both call home. I should mention why Penn Law. Elise and I are both alums of the JD program. So if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. But we also call Philadelphia home. We love living here. It's a really accessible city. It's along the East Coast, sort of between New York and Washington, D.C. Really easy bus or train ride to either one of those cities, less than 2 hours. We're about an hour from the beach, an hour from the mountains. And something that I think is really important for you all to know is that the cost of living here is significantly lower than some other major cities on the East and West Coast. So when you're considering where to do your LLM, think about living expenses and what your experience is really going to be like. The arts, culture, restaurants, all of these things are really accessible in terms of getting around the city, but also in terms of affordability. So it can really enhance your year at Penn Law by engaging in the Philadelphia community. And finally, what I'd like to touch on is the Penn Carey Law community. So you've heard a lot about the Penn Carey Law community, what I'm talking about for during your year at Penn Law, of course. But it's just the beginning of your relationship with us, your classmates, and other alumni. One of the best things about getting an LLM in the US is getting connected to this alumni network of folks who are all engaged and invested in making these personal, but also business and professional contacts. We have many, many clubs throughout the entire globe in different cities and different countries where we host events to bring alumni together. Sometimes maybe you might see me or Elise. Sometimes you might see a faculty member or a dean visiting, or there might be events that bring you together and keep those connections strong for the point of enhancing your lives and enhancing your personal lives, but also your professional lives. So these are just some of the incredible benefits you can look forward to if you choose Penn Carey Law. I'll pass it over to Elise. I think she's going to play a video, right?
We're having a virtual meeting with the dean and alums in Latin America a little around this time tomorrow. So, we really do stay quite engaged, and our alums really stay engaged with one another. And I think that speaks well of the school and people's experience. They want to stay connected. All right, we're going to attempt to play this video. We'll see how it goes.
Penn Law offers a welcome blend of sterling academic studies and opportunities for career advancement. The Penn Law LLM program is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to come to Philadelphia and to study at the University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League, world-renowned university. That's what I tell my friend. I think I'm taking home two things with me: to strive to be the best in everything I do, and to believe in myself that I can achieve whatever I set to achieve.
I learned to get out of my comfort zone. You'll be surprised that you can contribute a lot even to some other domains or classes you are not really familiar with because you have a different perspective.
One of the things that really struck a chord with me was its association with the Wharton School, and the offer that LLMs will do a Wharton certificate course simultaneous with the LLM in one of the best business schools in the world.
I think the certificate is designed for students who would like to add a managerial and financial perspective to their training in topics that have to do with corporate law and with financial markets more broadly.
We design our programming specifically for LLMs. We have a Wharton Business Law certificate. We have a summer program. I'll say the summer program is a very big and very impressive part of the LLM program. It's your first introduction to what to expect when school starts fully in September.
We did have a foundations course that was taught September, October, November. The idea was move that class into the summer, teach very intensively for 1 month, working hard specifically on the LLM students, get them integrated into them, and then move them into the regular curriculum.
So on a personal anecdote, I think The summer program really gives you the time to forge friendships, which you would then keep with you, cherish for a lifetime.
So I've been admitted for the SGD program at Penn Law School, and I will stay at the school for at least 1 more year. One of the reasons is actually the city itself.
Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, CT Hall.
It has a really good restaurants, a nice nightlife, and pubs and bars.
You have a city life, which is on one part of the city, and you have the American campus life on the other, and both are 5 blocks away.
It's really an easy, affordable, and safe place to live.
Go ahead and decide to come to Penn, because that would be probably the better decision.
Oops. Okay. Let's see if I can get to the next slide here. Oops. Sorry. Okay. And just we touched on many of these, but I think I'll just to reiterate, some of the things we offer is dedicated LLM career counselor. We have someone in our pro bono work office who works specifically with LLMs, both on finding pro bono opportunities that are of interest to them, as well as things that are eligible for the New York Bar, if that's something you're interested in. We do a lot of events, a lot of trips to courts, to law firms. We have a attorney mentor program. The amount of speakers on campus and at the law school on a daily basis is just overwhelming. There are a tremendous number of student activities here. We have the soccer, or as you call it, football club, which we see a lot of LLMs participating in. And of course, our LLMs definitely enjoy what Philadelphia has to offer. So let's see what we have next. Oh, and oops. Let's see if this works. Oh, maybe not. Sorry about that. Here, let's see what we can find. All right, so that was just the video about Philadelphia may not be working for some reason today. So go Google Philadelphia. You'll see there's a lot of cool stuff. So getting down to the nuts and bolts, we're gonna pass the mic to Sam to talk a little bit about application.
Sure. So, we've told you all these great things about Penn Law. We've said how amazing our LLM program is. So how do you apply, right? How do you tell us that you're interested? How do you show off all of your talents and your skills to us? So our application program, as you can see online, is completely online through LSAC, like many of our law school counterparts. You'll be submitting your documents online. You can see the list here of exactly what sorts of information you need. Nothing out of the ordinary, everything from your transcripts, resume, English language, letters of recommendation, all of that kind of stuff. Our program is highly competitive. We usually have about 115 spots, 115 students per class. And last year we received over 1,500 applications for those 115 spots. But don't despair. We use a completely holistic application process. What does that mean? That means we don't use any cutoffs, any algorithms, any calculations, any numbers to weed out or select who we are going to choose, right? Just because it's highly competitive doesn't mean that we're only taking people with a certain GPA or a certain set of scores, a certain set of grades. That's not true at all. Like I mentioned before, we're looking for a diversity of perspective. We're looking for unique people to join our community. Because we have a smaller class size, that means we're incredibly careful about every new person that we choose to bring into our community. So every single application is read at least twice, all the way through by at least 2 people, sometimes even more. So what does that mean for you? Show yourself off, because there are no cutoffs. Don't worry that one score maybe isn't as high as your classmates, or it isn't exactly perfect, because your application will be read all the way through. We take into consideration all of the factors. So that's a little bit about our application process. I'll pass it back to Elise to talk a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, very well put. Our culture of collegiality and sort of individual, we're collegial as a group, but we respect everyone as an individual, and we do that in the application process as well. One thing, though, we have to be a little bit little bit strict about is English language. It has to be at a certain level, or you're not going to be able to be successful in the program. So we're looking for a TOEFL of about 100 and 7 overall in IELTS. And the subsections matter too. So you don't want any subsection to be significantly lower. We are accepting at-home versions this year if you cannot safely take a test in person. So let's say you actually have pretty good English, but your TOEFL or your IELTS scores just aren't coming out the way you think they should. There are other ways to demonstrate your language skills. For example, we use a service called Initial View, which is a video service that records you speaking. It's not really an interview. We're looking at it just for the level of English. If you do a lot of work in English, ask either a client or a employer to talk about that. Perhaps you've done some study abroad. There are all different ways to demonstrate it. That being said, if the score is actually representing, a low score is actually representing your level of English, we're not doing anyone a favor to have you come to an extremely rigorous program unless your English is good enough for you to succeed. As we've said, we're really here to support you and make sure that you succeed in our program. All right. I'm gonna head it to Sam for some insider tips on how to make a great personal statement. And a lot of this applies not just for us, but for any school. So hopefully this will help you. And I know some of you are getting support with your personal statements.
Yeah. So first, the nuts and bolts of it a little bit. We ask for no more than 2 pages, professional formatting. Your professional judgment is on display here, right? So we're looking to learn something about you, and the way that you present yourself and the way that you present this essay is important too. But I know most of you are probably interested in content, and I started to touch on it a little bit before, but we don't have a specific topic or a specific prompt that we require. We want to hear from you. Of course, you can touch on sort of why you're interested in LLM, why you want to get this degree, what you hope to get with it, but you can also touch on your personal experience. Like I said, we are looking for unique individuals with a diversity of perspective. So show that off. Don't use this as an opportunity to sort of restate your resume in a narrative way and kind of just go through the different accomplishments, right? We are going to see your resume. We see your CV. It's one of the application documents. And trust me, like I said, we're reading everything all the way through. So we're going to look at it very carefully. Take this opportunity to show off something else about yourself, something that we wouldn't know by reading these other documents, right? We want to get to know who you are as a person. Like I said, we're choosing these people very specifically. So help us, tell us about all the great things that you've done or that you've hoped to do or that you've overcome, because we know you have a lot to share. This is your opportunity to do that. This is the place in the application where you can tell us about who you are as a person. Try to make that come through the page. Since we're reading all these documents and all these scores, those can get kind of dry. Trust me, we're going to read them all. But this is the part where you can show off yourself and where we get to know you and we can actually picture you here with us among our community. So that's our advice. And like Elise said, this isn't just for our program. I think this is valuable advice for any program, for any admissions professionals who are going to be evaluating your application. Show off yourself. And with that,
well said. So,
yeah.
So let's talk about letters of recommendation. And each school has different rules on this. So we require a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4. 2 can be fine. Don't feel like you have to do 4. 2 good letters of recommendations can be very successful. We encourage you to have at least one that's professional and one that's academic. There may be circumstances where that's not possible. You're so far along in your career, you really are out of touch with your academic contacts or some other thing. And this people sometimes think it's going to be great if it's someone who's famous or who's the managing partner or who's the dean of the law school that writes your letter of recommendation. we've had like heads of state, letters from heads of state, you know, all sorts of famous. It's not helpful unless that person actually really knows you. So, you know, if you have some sort of connection to someone who is well known, great, but that's not the person I would ask unless you've actually worked very close with them. Pick someone who really knows you. Pick that person who you directly report to at work, or you know, the faculty member that you had several classes with, or who you did research for. I would say if you happen to know a Penn Law alumni, we certainly, you know, that's great, and I encourage you to ask that person to write on your behalf. And this is a little tricky, but be sure to talk directly with your recommender to confirm that he or she can provide a positive recommendation. You want to make sure that they're comfortable in doing this. And if there are things in your application that are maybe weaker than you wish, you may want to have a frank conversation with that person. For example, maybe some of your grades, maybe it took you a little while to get going in your with your law degree, or maybe you had a rough semester. Share that with your academic recommender, who can sort of say, can actually address that. I see, you know, I realize, you know, so-and-so had a difficult third semester, but I want to assure you, based on what I know, they're, you know, or, you know, whatever it is, or, you know, I understand that their TOEFL speaking score is a little below, but I have to tell you, this is the person who speaks directly with our English speaking clients and is very successful in, and, you know, I get very positive feedback about so-and-so's English communication skills. So be thoughtful and take the time to have that conversation, even if it can feel a little uncomfortable. It's worth it. All right, so I'm gonna swap it back to Sam to talk about the all-important question, financing your LLM.
Yes, we know this is top of mind for so many of you, and is often determinative about whether or not you'll be able to do the LLM. So with that in mind, the Penn Law Scholarship, we try to make it as easy as possible for you to get access to our scholarship funds. That means on our application, you'll see a little box. Would you like to be considered for merit aid? You check yes. That's it. You're done, right? You have made yourself eligible for a Penn Law Scholarship. Keeping in mind that these scholarships are tuition only, they're limited in number and amount, meaning we're not able to give complete aid to every single person that we wish we could. But again, we do try to make it as easy as possible for people to get access to these scholarships. And anyone can apply, right? Like I said, it's just that box on the application. You check it, you're done. There's no separate application. There's no separate essay for this. That's it. We also offer a human rights scholarship. This is tuition only, and it does require a little bit more than just checking a box. It just requires another essay in addition to your personal statement, talking about your demonstrated commitment to human rights. You can also include what you hope to accomplish, but really try to focus on your record of what you have done with human rights. But we encourage anyone who has a background and interest in human rights to apply for this. And also, sort of piggybacking on our conversation about the personal statement, use this as an opportunity to really focus in on your human rights work, and use your personal statement as an opportunity to show off something else about yourself, right? These should be two distinct essays so we can really get a sense of who you are, and also your human rights work, so we can fully consider you for that scholarship, in addition to being able to evaluate your credentials for admission, right? Other funding sources, employer sponsorship, government and private scholarships. I'm sure the folks at TT and your network through here have helped you become aware of other scholarships and other funding that might be out there for folks like you. But in addition, our website, we have some other funding sources, some listed by country, some partnerships, you know, like Fulbright and that kind of thing. They're all listed on our website. You can see the link there, but if you can't click on this link, which I'm sure you can't, you can just visit our website. If you Google Penn Law LLM, you can visit the graduate program's website, and we have a whole section there about financing your LLM. So
with that, just showing a class jumping for joy from a couple of years ago. I think we're gonna, can we do a stop share? Jem?
Sorry, Elise, I was on mute, but let me go ahead and remove that. Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. Cool. Well, thank you all so much. This was really fascinating, and I think we're at that point. Are we not? Or do you all have a little bit more? Because if not, we
Yeah,
can
I
go
think
ahead and check in the
we've
questions.
gone way. We've talked plenty. So whatever questions anyone has, please don't be shy. We're happy to respond. I think I don't know if you can share. Sam put in the private chat the information on our financing. I don't know if you can broadcast that to the group. That would be great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there it is.
I dropped it there so we can share. And I really encourage you to take a look at our website, right? A lot of the things we've touched on today, you can find that information and even more on our website. We know that most of our students are not going to be able to visit Penn Law, even in non-COVID times, right? It's hard to travel internationally. So we try to make an effort to have the information you need, the information you want on our website. It also has contact information for us if you want to reach out and ask even more questions. So please take some time and browse our website when you get a chance.
Cool. And I think, this is the fun part for me, where we get to kind of ask questions and kind of talk about things that are really exciting for a lot of these candidates who are entering this very important process, right? That is very competitive, as you mentioned, that takes a lot of time and effort. And we're starting to have our first candidates apply to programs this month, we're in December. So this month, next month, and throughout the rest of the beginning of next year. So one of the things that I thought that was really cool about Penn Law was this, and me being an MBA guy, business guy, was the Wharton Business Certificate, if I'm not mistaken. Can you kind of dive into that and just kind of explain, kind of the importance of the Wharton School and its presence in terms of the business community and what that means for a lot of law school students who want to have that kind of experience to complement their LLM program?
Sam, you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So we think that the law is not siloed, right? Everything is cross-disciplinary now. It's part of why Penn Law has such a big commitment to that, but especially the law and business, right? They're so interconnected. And we want to give all the opportunities we can to our graduates to help set them up for success and to distinguish themselves, right, on the global marketplace. And what is one of the ways we can do that? By partnering with Wharton, right? Wharton is one of the most world-renowned business schools. It's ranked among the top, sometimes at the top in the United States. It is very well regarded. The Penn Law brand is very strong too amongst employers in the US and globally, but Wharton is as well. And being able to have that credential on your resume can really set you apart when you are in the global job market competing against other candidates. As well, it just is for your own knowledge, right? It's not only a credential on your resume, it's to help set you up with the skills and the foundation to really understand those business topics so that you can understand business clients, so that you can serve them better, so that you can take your skills to the next level to make sure that you're understanding all of the tensions and factors happening when a cross-border deal is happening or you're advising a large corporate client, right? And like I said, the program is custom designed for our LLMs. You are just with your LLM classmates and those Wharton faculty. It is with international lawyers in mind to help you get grounding in those foundational business topics. Again, it's designed for international lawyers, so it's not the most high-level quantitative, statistical business kinds of things. It's targeted for you to give you grounding in those topics that you need and on a level that you can understand and absorb and apply when you graduate. Yeah. So it's an amazing opportunity. Like I said, everyone is automatically eligible to take the certificate at Penn Law if you're an LLM. So Elise, did you want to add something?
I was going to say, you don't have to take the GMAT to do the certificate.
Correct.
Unlike MBA programs, I know that can be a real barrier for folks. And one thing I think that this is unique and really, really special about our program, but I also want to let folks know that, it's not, Penn Law isn't a business law school. That's one of our strengths. We are also incredibly well known for criminal law, human rights, arbitration, just a whole, I can't even, the law school was founded by people who signed the Declaration of Independence. Our LLM is over 100 years old. We have, even though it's a pretty small law school, we have usually over 90 classes available during the semester. In addition to our world-class sitting faculty, we are able to draw upon top practitioners in their field who teach seminars and classes. Being in Philadelphia, when in normal times, people come down once a week from New York. A lot of government people come up once a week from DC. During this remote time, we've had an interesting ability to have adjuncts teach from Beijing and London and some other places, and it might be interesting to see what happens as we move forward. Hopefully, as things become more normal, we'll also be able to take some of these incredible sort of silver linings of this time. But, and it's interesting because we do see people take the Wharton program whose primary focus isn't necessarily corporate law, because there are sort of management and other aspects to it that apply a little bit more broadly. But in any case, if you come and you're interested, you don't have to, you don't even have to register ahead of time. They like it if you do, but they do information sessions, and you can kind of figure out, like, is this really what I want to do? Does it make sense for me or not? And sometimes it doesn't. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't pigeonhole us as just a corporate law school.
No, that's fantastic to kind of hear about these opportunities. And I would just second Samantha in terms of kind of, having your educational toolbox be more broad. Like, I didn't complete a JD or an LLM. I'm probably the only person who isn't a lawyer tuned in right now. But I can tell you that it is so important to really understand different fields, different practices, especially as an entrepreneur. I knew nothing about pro bono. I knew nothing about articles of incorporation. I knew nothing about how to hire people. And now all of a sudden, I'm trying to take a crash course on Google in terms of learning how to be a lawyer. And so I wish I could just pause time and go get a JD or an LLM and come back and do what I'm doing. So I think it's
hire a Penn Law graduate.
True. That is true. That is true. Maybe that might be the solution, because I certainly need lawyers on my team these days. Luckily, we do have one in Carol Silva, our chief of staff. Yeah. But I think, it's so important, especially in the world that we live in today, to kind of have this broad experience. So that's a fantastic aspect of the program. And I definitely want to make sure our candidates pay attention. We do have a question from
Cesar. I see a question from Cesar. Hi, good to see you again. And this also ties into another question about clinics. So what about fellowships? What about things that you want to do during and after your LLM? And I'll sort of address this kind of globally. So we do a few things to encourage sort of practical learning during your LLM, and that can be, there are 4 clinics that LLMs are eligible to participate in: mediation, entrepreneurship, transnational, which tends to deal with human rights and immigration, and IP. And in addition, there's a certain number of classes that are very practically oriented. There's like a negotiations class. There are classes that are sort of more practice oriented. We also have an incredible pro bono, the Toll Public Interest Center, which just got a $50 million grant to improve even what they're doing. And so we have someone in that office who works specifically with LLMs on pro bono opportunities, that's another way to get practically engaged. And then, so after you're in the US for a year, you can qualify for OPT for a year, and that's an opportunity for occupational practical training. And a lot of LLMs will stay for that extra year. We have an incredibly dedicated and knowledgeable career counselor who's been doing this type of work for over 10 years, who will work individually with students. During the summer program, she'll do a bunch of sort of general programs and work on your resume, and then she'll meet one-on-one with people who are interested in pursuing opportunities after graduation. And she has tirelessly promoted LLMs and has tried to get funding and whatever, and she successfully got additional funding for a postgraduate fellowship for LLMs that I think is generally used at international organizations. So in terms of opportunities, we don't place you, we don't give you, we wish we could, but we have the most really tremendous resources in terms of working with you to identify your goals and to kind of support you along that path of securing whatever it is that you're interested in doing. I will say that Penn Law is, for JD placement, is ranked #1 pretty much every year. But LLM, it's a little bit more complicated. It's not something that records are kept, and most LLMs will return home because of the way visa and the US legal market works. It's not really viable to stay in the US long term.
Yeah, Elise, I see another question in the chat that I think piggybacks on the point you just made about visas and the market. It's about working part-time during the LLM, to help with financing. Do you want to why
don't you talk about that? Are you comfortable?
Sure. Yeah. I think in general, part-time employment is not usually possible for our LLM graduates, not our graduates, our students, because of visa conditions. It's just not something that usually is allowed on student visas. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elise. We're not. One thing that we'll say is that Penn Law has a wonderful team that is completely dedicated to immigration and visa issues for our students.
Yeah.
So Elise and I aren't the biggest experts, but
I have this much more expertise, which sometimes gets me in trouble. But you can work typically on campus, right? So the kinds of jobs that we recommend or that make sense is if you are able to get a position doing research with a faculty member or as a TA. So those make sense because they're sort of part of your furthering your goal and part of your education. In terms of the money that you would get, it's not much compared to what the cost of tuition is. So we certainly encourage people to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities because they're part of the educational system. Working outside of the university is not available under most of the visas that our LLMs come to the school with.
And would be true of other LLM programs as well.
Yeah. It's just not. It's not viable. I see there are some other ones.
Yeah, I think we have one from Wilmer. He's next in the pipeline. I'll read it just in case someone out there can't see. Hello, can you tell me a little bit about the Human Rights Scholarship? I'm indigenous from Waju people, that's in Venezuela, and a human rights defender, and I'm interested in it.
Sam, you want to talk a little bit more?
Sure, yeah. So our Human Rights Scholarship is pretty open-ended. The point of it is to encourage and attract human rights defenders like yourself, right? There aren't a lot of specifics. We're not looking for someone who works in a specific type of human rights law or who works, as a litigator versus at an NGO. We welcome all types of human rights. So I mentioned it a little bit when I talked about the personal statement and the essays. Show off yourself. We're looking for people who have a demonstrated commitment and who have a passion for it. Like it sounds like you do. I remember meeting you and I remember your story the last time, we were together on Zoom. So please show off yourself. And in terms of when you get to the law school, in addition to the scholarship, we've worked recently with our human rights scholars to do everything from help them select classes that will prepare them for the specific type of career path in human rights that they are interested in, sometimes planning a speaker series, symposia, events, hosting sort of roundtable discussions. We are here to support you in your work. We like to leave it open-ended on purpose because we're looking for lots of different and interesting folks. I'm trying to think about the background of this year's human rights folks, but we have people globally who do all different kinds of work. And it sounds like your work and your background fit squarely into it. I know we've kind of communicated with you a little bit before. We think you would be a great candidate to apply for it. So please do.
Yeah.
One quick question for you, Sam and Elise. How many, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but how many human rights scholarships do you offer each year? Did I miss that?
Usually one, maybe two, depending on the pool of applicants. And the next question, I'm cheating. I'm seeing from Miranda. I don't know if you want to put it up, but I'm eager to respond to that. So I raised both of my girls here in Center City, Philadelphia. They're a bit older now. It's 18 and 21, but you know, LLMs with families are near and dear to us. We usually even have a program in the summer to welcome them and provide cookies and pretzels for the little ones. And there is a family resource center on campus. Most families choose not. There is dorms. People can live in dorms. They're safe and close to law school. But one of the nice things about Philadelphia is we have a very relatively inexpensive and very diverse and robust housing market and an office of off-campus housing. So a lot of pretty much all families will do off-campus housing because there's so many good choices, and it may depend on what you want, like depending on the age of your kids. Do you want to be near a local school? Do you want to be near certain parks? Or there's a great children's there's a lot of museums that are focused on children. So like kind of depending on the age of your child or children and you know what would make the most sense for your whole family. And we're, you know, happy to, there's a lot of support for that university-wise. And I always enjoy conversations with folks who are bringing families, although I'm getting further and further away from being knowledgeable about, like, you know, daycare centers and stuff. The university keeps information on that.
Elise and Sam, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you mentioned in terms of the affordability of the city of Philadelphia. And if you could kind of put that in terms of numbers, when we compare that to a city like New York. I know, but I think it's really important for a lot of the candidates out there to kind of understand what some ballpark figures for rent might be in the city of Philadelphia versus San Francisco or New York or other cities that might be on the higher end in terms of cost per month.
Sam, you just updated the Sampson, the dorm numbers. Do you happen to remember them?
Yeah, some of them. There are options that are close to campus, safe. This is the on-campus housing, which, to be fair, the majority of our students don't choose, not because it's inconvenient or more expensive or something. It's just Philadelphia has so much affordable housing that's close by, that's more flexible and maybe newer with more facilities. But those numbers were around 1,000 or less per person per month. You know, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find livable housing at that price point in New York around some of the major schools. In San Francisco, I'm sure it's even crazier. I can't imagine, but I know I went to undergraduate school in Washington, D.C. And even when I moved back here to go to law school, I was shocked at the prices, not only of housing, but groceries, food, going out to eat, entertainment. And Philadelphia isn't quite as large. So you don't spend as much time and money on transportation, on getting around, right? When we say off-campus housing, it's really 1, 2, 3 blocks from campus. It's equidistant as the dorms are from our law school facilities. That's part of the reason that so many folks choose to live off campus, because there are so many options that are close. You know, I lived in Center City, which is the major downtown area. Again, you can find rents and $1,000 and up for one person or more. And that's only a 15, 20-minute walk to the law school, right? And in somewhere like New York, 15 or 20 minutes, you're still within the same neighborhood you've been walking in. So I'm not sure, Elise, I don't know if you have any other.
I would say one thing is if you're really budget conscious, you could get like a room in a house with a bunch of students for even less than the dorms, if you really want to economize. And then we have some folks who are used to living in, cities like Tokyo or Sao Paulo, let's say, and they're used to spending, $3-4 grand a month on, and then they're living in a building with a doorman and a pool and fancy everything. So it just really varies what you want to, what your budget is, but there's a real range, and it is significantly less expensive than New York, DC, Boston, Chicago, and the Bay Area.
And I would encourage.
Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just going to say quickly, for specific numbers, Elise and I don't keep those always in our heads, but Elise mentioned, I was updating them because we do include them in our brochure and on our website. So I would encourage students to check out our website and other schools' websites. Most include a line item in their tuition for living expenses and rent, and some of them also sort of price out the housing options nearby. So that information is out there if you're interested in shopping around.
I was just going to ask, Philadelphia has a great location. So what is like a ride on the train? How long is that commute to New York City or to Washington, D.C. or Boston?
Well, it depends how much money you want to spend. You want to take a Acela, which is really expensive. I think it's like, what is it, an hour and 10 minutes?
Wow.
You want to do Megabus? You could get that for what?
I said that Acela is even less to New York, less time.
Yeah. It's like an hour. You want to get a $5 bus trip on Megabus. If the traffic's not bad, you'll get there in 2 hours. Yeah, DC add about 30% to that. So it really depends. So let's say you want to experience. You have friends who live in New York. You want to experience nightlife in New York. You want to maybe do some networking in New York or DC or whatever. Totally doable. From people, it's very easy to do a day trip to New York. I actually have neighbors who commute to New York. They're very happy about they're very happy about the remote working, but they've been calling Philadelphia the sixth borough of New York because people are starting to commute from here because it's so affordable and it's not it's not that far. I'm worried they're going to drive up our prices, but that's another story.
Watch out for that. I think we have a question from Alvaro. Hi, Elise, Sam. Thanks for your time. I have a question. As an international student on the LLM program, can take a dual degree in Penn Law, specifically the LLM in transnational arbitration. I have no idea what that is, so I'll hand it off to the lawyers.
Sam, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So we don't have any specific LLM degrees. We offer one generalized degree, the Penn Law LLM. But the great thing about that is if you want to focus your curriculum and your study on transnational issues, arbitration, and international arbitration, you can do that. It is completely customizable. So while we don't offer, a specific LLM in transnational arbitration, we have so many classes and we don't require you to take anything after the summer program. It is completely up to you to customize your degree. You can have an LLM in basically whatever you want because it is completely customizable. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say we do have a couple of certificates now in IP, and we also have one that sort of might fit you can look at the classes for it on our website that is global focused. But I think it really, and students who do focus on something, there's no reason you can't say it's a general LLM, but there's no reason you can't say on your resume, concentrated in whatever it is if you took a bunch of classes in that. But we really think that this flexible approach and is really the way to go. And it allows students to do so many things. It allows them, if they want to take the New York bar, if they want to take a clinic, if they want to spend the year exploring a bunch of different stuff, if they want to really focus on one thing. And in addition to the Wharton certificate, you're able to take a class at any of our sister schools. You want to take a class at, focus on IP, maybe you want to take a class at the engineering school. Maybe you want to take a class at the Fell School of Government. Maybe you want to take a class at Annenberg, our communication school. So, there's so much to offer, and this flexibility allows our students to take, advantage of all that we have to offer without sort of being constrained into one thing.
All right, next question is from Hane. Hi, Sam and Elise. What do you love most about Philly? What is it like to live in Philadelphia?
I'll start. I love it's so walkable. I never get into a car. I either use my bike or I walk. I walk to work. My kids walk to school. We walk when we go out to restaurants. It's just totally safe, walkable. And I have to say, during this time, every day I take like an hour-long walk. And we have Fairmount Park, which is the largest urban park in the United States. I leave off my house, and within 2 blocks, I'm on a river trail. And the other day, my husband and I went for a 3-hour hike from our house on trails we had never been on. And we've lived here for I've lived here since 1990. So I love that. And I love the food and I love the people. Sam?
Yeah, I think so. Walkability is certainly one. I think it's a word that you've heard me use before, but it really encompasses, I think, what I like about Philadelphia, which is accessible. That can mean walkability, right? I don't like driving very much, and I don't want to be on a bus or in a subway all the time. I like being able to walk to work. I live like 2 miles from Penn's campus. That's a nice walk in the morning. It's about 35 minutes. That's about what people who might commute in a car do. I put in a podcast and I cross the river. It's a beautiful walk. It's easy to get around. That's what I mean by accessible. By accessible, I also mean affordable, right? It's accessible. My husband and I own a home basically less than a mile from Center City. My friends from New York visit and they are shocked that we own an entire home with so much space, with a rooftop view and a deck and outdoor space. Like, that's great. I think that's really accessible. Another thing, what I mean by accessibility is being able to get to know the city. It's accessible. You can get to know the city. I think New York and cities that are so huge sometimes are hard to crack. They're hard to understand. They're hard to get to really feel and like the place. And I think Philadelphia is really accessible to people in that way. Our neighborhoods each have a different flavor. You can get to them easily. It's not so tough to get around. You can jump around to different ones. I think we have a real personality here. I think people are very proud to be from Philadelphia. And I think we're really diverse. That's something that's important to me. I grew up in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia, which are really nice and they're beautiful, but they're not as diverse as living downtown. And that's why I've chosen to live in the city now as an adult. So those are just some of the things I love about living in Philadelphia.
And in Philadelphia, every vote counts. We were very central in the election and very proud. We worked really hard. My husband worked 14 hours that day as a poll worker, poll watcher. I volunteered it's a very civically engaged. It's a great place to come and learn about government and civic engagement.
Cool. Thank you all so much for the insights on Philadelphia. The next question is from Caesar. He says that I am especially interested in the global security LLM concentration. What about the transnational legal? Is it like working abroad or something similar? Sorry, I missed the first part. How do LLM concentrations work?
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, so Elise touched on it a little bit. So they don't involve working abroad or anything beyond what a normal LLM is. It's really just a way for you to sort of guide and focus your degree. Like we said, it's completely customizable. Some people have an idea of taking all of these things and they know that they want to do that or they want to focus in on something. This is a way to sort of formalize your focus. Basically how they work is there are a list of core classes and you have to take a certain amount taught by standing faculty, and there are others that you can take by adjuncts. Basically, the registrar will give you a list of which classes in each semester sort of count for these concentrations. You make your choices in line with however many you need to fulfill the concentration. And that's it. You can put it on your resume that you have this concentration for the LLM. So it's really just a way to help guide and focus your career.
And it'll just say on your, I think it says on your transcript that you completed the requirements for the concentration. And there are only two. There's the one, it's a long name that sort of encompasses a bunch of international stuff, and an IP one. Transnational is the clinic. There's a clinic called the Transnational Clinic. And I think that if you did that, it would go towards that sort of one that has a bunch of international stuff in the title.
Cool. I think we have one more question from Diego, and I'm looking at my watch here. So we're a little bit over. So I guess we could have one more question after Diego if there is one. But his question is, hi, Sam and Elise, what are the requirements that you have to give financial aid to a person who wants to study an LLM and does not have enough funds to pay the tuition? And I think just to add a little insight from what I've been able to see, and to piggyback off of Diego's question, what other resources are there aside from a scholarship? Are there any types of grants? Do students who come from LLM or come to the LLM program take out student loans from their home country or in the US? Like, what is the kind of general suite of financial products that you can access to help cover the cost of your education?
Do you want me to, Sam, do you want me to?
I'll start by talking about sort of what we look for, and then maybe Elise, you can touch on some of the other sort of, as Jem mentioned, in the suite of products. So what I'll say, what we're looking for is merit aid. What does merit mean? Well, it's kind of like our holistic process that we talked about for the application process. It doesn't necessarily mean the person with the highest GPA gets the scholarship and someone with, a lower score has no chance of it. What it means is, who are you? What do you have to offer the school, and who are the people coming and who are in the pool? We're awarding them for merit. And like I said, that can mean a bunch of different things. It means, what do you have to offer? What are you bringing to the community? And that's kind of how we pick. Again, it's holistic. There are no specific cutoffs. There are no calculations. There is a scholarship committee where your application will be considered and your materials considered yet again in another way, read again. So, we encourage you to apply, because it doesn't mean the person with the highest score is automatically going to be the only one to get aid.
Yeah. And basically, all you need to do is check a box. We do not consider any kind of financial documents. You don't need to forward anything like that. Basically, we make all our admissions decisions without looking at that box. And then once we've decided who applies, we run a report that says everyone who checks the box and everyone who got admitted, and then their files all go to the scholarship committee. And so for most people, it's some sort of combination how they pay for it, right? So we have a limited budget, and most students do not get any financial aid for us, and it varies between about 10,000 and at the very most 50,000, which is towards, but more often 40,000, which is towards $70,000 of tuition, and there are living expenses. So, it's a big investment. So depending on some folks, their employer either pays for some of that or gives them some sort of loan at a favorable rate. Sometimes government, sometimes scholarships. Some of our students use some financial products that you can find on our like Prodigy, although I'm not sure what they're doing. They may be changing a little bit of how they do that. That we have a couple of loan that folks. The law school doesn't do any kind of loans, except if you are either a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the U.S. Things are different. Get in touch with me. I'll get you to that. But if you're not a U.S. citizen, it's very difficult to get loans in the U.S. and that's unfortunately. But I would say most people, it's sort of, thinking about as many different sources as possible: savings, family, scholarships, loan, this scholarship and then this scholarship and then this scholarship. But in terms of funding from Penn, it's all merit scholarships. That is our funding.
Thanks, Elise and Sam. And I think one of the things that I want to make very clear as well is that TT does a lot of work building relationships with foundations and other sources of funding, because having gone through this experience myself and not having the money to drop, I don't know, $200,000 on a MBA, twice the cost at least.
And not to mention the exchange rate these folks are dealing with.
Yes, yes. It's complicated. So I think one of the things that TT strives to do is help candidates find sources of financial aid and come up with the requisite amount that they need to go to law school, but not come out in a situation where, it isn't to their advantage, or they're in such dire financial strain that it's not even worth attending the program. So we do a lot of work to build those relationships. So that's one of the focal points of our program. We have some, all right, the questions seem to have flooded in towards the end. So we'll take two more. Sorry, Sam and Elise.
Our pleasure.
I'll take this one from some people we haven't heard from. So this first one is from Anna Olivia. Thank you so much, Elise and Sam. Great to see you again. What's the perspectives of Penn Law LLM classes considering this pandemic scenario next year?
All right, great question. So I don't know if you can see, but my crystal ball is right here. I'm polishing it, and I still don't know the answer. So we don't know. I'm hopeful about next fall. But what I can say is what's happened in the past. To the extent that the past is predictive of the future, I'll tell you this. I am incredibly proud of the way that Penn Law has managed the pandemic. Back in March, they were able to pivot to online learning with just one extra week. Faculty who I thought were, kind of old and inflexible were determined to be innovative and to teach at a very high level. The amount of support that we gave to students, particularly LLMs, mailing them the contents of their locker, helping them with their travel plans, doing small grants to cover expenses that hadn't been expected, all these kind of things. We then also transitioned to having our 5-week program, pre-term program in the summer. It's not the same as being here, but we worked very hard with all sorts of people around the law school to have lots of social events, a walking competition, a tour of Philadelphia, all sorts of fun things, and have all the great speakers that we normally have, from career planning to our academic success program. So, we really did that. And then this fall, and we also allowed a number of students to defer to the spring. So we had about half the class start in the fall. We reran the pre-term program. We just finished it. I don't know that we could ever do that again. That was absolutely exhausting to run that program twice. And then we have people starting in the spring. So, and then we also deferred some people further. So I don't know what the futures can predict, but I can tell you Penn Law values its students. It values their safety. We did have this fall hybrid classes, and some LLMs were here in person doing that. Some weren't able to get here. We had no spread of COVID through the law school. They were exceptionally careful. They value the students' safety. The community safety is number one. But, even with that, I can promise robust academic, co-curricular, and social programming, regardless of how it is. I think we're going to sort of go into a period where it's more normal, but there's still more online. I'm hoping. I'm an optimist. I'm hoping for sort of the best of both worlds. Like we'll have a bunch of on campus classes, but we'll now also keep that wonderful class with our adjunct who's like very famous in Beijing. And for those of you who do arbitration, Gary Bourne, who's like, the godfather of arbitration practice, is our alum. He's in London. He just taught from London this semester, so we'll see. Anna, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you all are doing a great job. So keep it up, and hopefully we can see some of the candidates here at UPenn next year. And then we'll take one last question from Fidel. Hi, Elise and Sam. I would like to know this is a good closing question. Hi, Elise and Sam. I would like to know what is the main distinction or distinctive of UPenn LLM from other programs in the country? What does it offer differently? So this is your chance to sell UPenn to the world.
So
Sam.
Yeah, so I think I touched on this a lot during the presentation, and I would encourage anyone to sort of go back and look at the recording. You can see all of our slides if you ever need a refresher. But just in short, I think our preterm program, that's different. That really helps set you up for success for your year at Penn to make the most of it. The Wharton Business and Law Certificate, we talked about that at length. Our cross-disciplinary education, the Wharton Certificate kind of fits into that, but as we've said, our faculty are committed to that. You can take another class, but I think what it really comes down to is our community, right? That means our culture of collegiality. That means your lifelong network of Penn Carey Law alumni who you meet here. And it also means me and Elise. It means the support. It means the support system that we are building to help ensure that our LLMs are going to be as successful as they can during their year and beyond, right? That encompasses sort of everything we've talked about today. And I'm not sure I can say it any more than that.
Awesome. So I guess
Well
we'll
said,
leave it
Sam.
there. We'll leave it there. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
You make me want to go back 20 years and maybe try to get a JD. Like Sam said, I can always hire a UPenn Law alum. So we'll see if we can do that. But
Yeah.
thank you all so much once again.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank
the
you
UPenn
for making this possible, and thank you for the folks who attended for spending this hour with us. We feel really honored by your presence.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. Anytime. And hopefully we can do it in person, maybe in Colombia or in Brazil or another LATAM country here soon. So I guess we'll go ahead and close things down. Thank you once again, Sam, Elise. Hope to see you in Philly one day soon. Stay well, stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see everyone next time. Again, this has been recorded. We'll have it up on our YouTube page. So hit the subscribe or like button if you're there now, and send this out to your friends if you think they might be interested in Penn Law. So thank you once again, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.